Hello and welcome to my first narrated build-along video. Today I'm making a passport holder in purple Buttero leather. If you'd like to follow along, you can purchase the pattern by clicking the link I've put up on the screen. The final product is also available for purchase in 13 different colors, and the link is in the description below. This is what you'll get if you purchased our digital template. To get started, I printed out the pattern and glued it onto cardboard. I then carefully cut along the edges to create this cardboard template, so I will be able to reuse this pattern when I make another passport holder in the future. Next, I place the pattern on the leather and roughly cut out the pieces I need. Then, I will split the leather to the appropriate thickness using my band knife splitting machine. If you don't have one, you'd need to order leather in different thicknesses from your supplier. For the exterior, I split it to around 1.8 millimeters thick, and for the interior, to around 1 millimeter thick. Here, I am just checking the thickness of the split leather with a thickness gauge to ensure it's the correct thickness I want. Since results may vary when splitting leather that's different in thickness and stiffness. Once that's done, I will trace the pattern onto the leather and cut it out. Here I'm just cutting the straight edges and the curve around the opening first. I will not cut out the rounded corners at this stage, as I prefer cutting the corners last when the pieces are glued together, so I don't need to cut each and every layer separately. The cuts will also be more even this way. For straight lines, I prefer cutting with a ruler and a cutter. For curved areas, I like cutting it with Japanese-style leather skivers. Now that the pieces are cut out, it's time to decorate and finish the leather. I'm going to decorate, bevel, and burnish the opening areas of the card slots and pockets. First, I will crease a decorative line with a heat creaser on the openings of the pockets and card slots. Then I will bevel the leather edges to remove sharp edges. I'm using a size 00 Berry King beveler for it. I prefer to use a narrower beveler for thinner pieces like this one. A quick tip on beveling thin pieces is to place the leather on a raised surface when beveling. This will prevent the tip of the beveler from hitting the work surface. After that, I burnish the edges by hand using a sponge and some burnishing gum. I like wetting the edges with a sponge first, then apply a thin layer of burnishing gum because I feel the application is more even like that, and the burnished edges will be more uniform in color after it's burnished. First, I will burnish with a wood slicker, then buff the edges with a canvas rag. Once the edges are burnished, I am going to run the top card slot compartment through my bell skiver to reduce the thickness of the edges where the layers of leather overlap. Now it's time to glue the leather together. I start by gluing the left inside compartment first, as it will require stitching. To make the leather stick better, I usually scratch the skin side of the leather with the tip of my knife to roughen the surface. Quick tip: use a crepe eraser to remove dried up glue on the glue spreader. This ensures that the glue will spread thinly and evenly when applied. I'm going to apply glue to all the edges now. I personally prefer water-based white glue for my projects. First, because it's easy to spread and doesn't leave a lot of residue, but more importantly, it's non-toxic and it doesn't have a strong smell. I feel that it's safer to use in a small shop like mine compared to yellow glue. If you're interested in what tools I use or recommend, feel free to visit and use the affiliate links of my tool recommendation list below in the video description. Purchasing through the links below will be a great support and will help me create more videos like this in the future. Now, I wait for the glue to dry a bit before aligning the leather. If the glue is not dry enough, the pieces will not stick together properly and may split when you're stitching. Lastly, I clamp down the edges to make sure there is a good bond between the pieces. Now it's time to stitch the left pocket with card slots. I am measuring the width of the card pocket to find the midpoint. Then I will draw a guideline across it to follow along when stitching. I'll use matching color burgundy thread for this project, and I'm swapping out the thread and replacing the bobbin on my Juki sewing machine with matching color thread. For those who are interested, I use a Juki DSC 246 cylinder bed sewing machine. Of course, you can hand stitch as well when you follow along on this project. The thread I'm using is a polyester thread, so I can burn the thread ends to seal the stitch. Next, I tap the thread lightly with a hammer so it sits flush with the leather. After the left pocket with card slots is stitched, I glue the rest together. I don't need to roughen the contact patches of the leather this time, as the flesh side of the leather generally sticks pretty well with each other. After that, I can now trim off the corners I intentionally left earlier. I'm now going to stitch the rest of the passport holder on the sewing machine. Then I snip off the thread ends and seal off the stitches like before. Now that the passport holder is stitched, it's time to finish it. First, I sand off any uneven parts of the leather. I usually use 3 types of sandpaper, starting with 250 grit, then moving to 400 grit, and finishing with 800 grit. After the edges are flat and smooth, I bevel the sharp edges with a beveler. This time, I'm using a larger beveler since the leather is thicker than before. Having a larger edger makes the edges rounder and smoother. Here, I'm using a size 2 Ron's Montana beveler. Of course, you don't need multiple bevelers to do the job. You can also use sandpaper to round off the edges. Having multiple sizes just makes the job easier. Just like before, for burnishing I apply water, then burnishing paste. This time I'm burnishing on an electric desktop burnisher. It generates heat more easily and is quicker than burnishing by hand, but of course burnishing by hand is possible. I have a video on burnishing that I'll put up on the screen now. You may want to sand with 800 grit sandpaper and repeat the process for an even smoother edge finish. This is Colombus Edge Wax. Next, I apply wax to all 4 edges and buff them with a canvas rag. This generates heat and seals the edges and creates a shine. Finally, I run a bone folder along the seams inside the pockets to open up the seams from excess glue, making it easier to slide in cards and a passport for the initial use. And there you have it, a beautiful passport holder made from purple Buttero leather. I hope you enjoy this build along video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now, and don't forget to leave a comment letting me know what you'd like to see me make next. If you have any feedback or suggestions on this type of video, I'd love to know what you think. Also, consider following me on Instagram for more regular leatherwork related posts. I've linked it in the description below. That's all for today's video. See you in the next one.